Hello and welcome to From the Vault, episode 12. I'm your host Dan Wren, and with me as always is my co-host Nathaniel. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. I am doing all right. I have new laces for my shoes so I can walk places without fear.
I feel like you've needed those for a while.
I have definitely needed those for a while. My laces were definitely less sturdy than I expected them to be after purchasing new shoes.
But you bought like these really nice boots, and then like the laces broke, and then you just kind of had no laces for a while.
I mean, my shoes aren't falling off my feet. They are attached. They're just, it's not great. Yeah, no,
But now it's great.
Now it's all right.
That's good.
It's fine. We've solved the problem.
Excellent. Okay. So, Magic. We played GP Copenhagen this last weekend. And it didn't go very well.
No, it was terrible.
Generally across the board. I mean, actually, so first of all, it was a pretty small GP. I think it's the smallest I've ever been to. We had, 750 maybe, max?
Yeah, tops? I mean, you just can't fit that many people down in, like, the dark mines they've got there.
So, it was really small. I don't know why that is. I think that it was RPTQ weekend in some places. But I'm not sure it was. It just kind of... I know
there was an Italian RPTQ that was going on.
That's right. Okay. So yeah, we ended up about 750 people. I remember when they were talking about cutting to day 2, which I'm not even sure if they did this, but they were talking about... so it was going to be 128 folks, obviously at X2. But if there weren't 128 people at X2, they were going to take the top X3s, which is mental.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and that's just how small it was. What did we play? What did you play?
I played Red-Black Midrange.
You played Triple Cinder Barons.
Yeah, the list based more around the Takimura list that we talked about last week.
Mm-hmm.
I feel deeply medium about my decision to register 3 Rakdos Guild Gates.
Right.
And think in general that... I'm not sure. I think basically the lesson I learned is that this standard format is not as narrow as previous ones where we had a Pro Tour like we did.
Right.
So in those previous ones, you could say, okay, I'm just going to face Mardu vehicles.
I see.
Like, I'm just going to face Mardu vehicles for a whole event, and I'm going to get my wins there. And you weren't going to face Mardu vehicles every single round, but you'd have a good, like, if you had a good chance if you, like, hit them in the first round and beat them. You could, and if you could take an aim at a target and really press your advantage there, I guess.
Mm-hmm,
So following the PT, where it was like red-black strategies were clearly dominant with like a mono-red strategy still around, I thought, well, I'll play this red-black strategy that's really good in the mirror. Or at least I think it's favored in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't face the mirror all weekend across 6 and then another 5. Across 11 matches, I never faced a single mirror. Playing as mono-red 4 times?
Yeah.
Playing as mono-red 4 times, only beat them once. Despite playing the worst I played all weekend. And other than that, faced mostly control strategies.
Right.
There's
a lot of mono-red in the room, though.
There was a lot of mono-red in the room. There was both a lot more mono-red in the room than I expected, and my matchup was, I think, worse than I had estimated.
Right.
In my testing, I've kind of been like, I think this matchup is okay. I think I'm disfavored pre-board, favored post-board. It's all alright.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I'm disfavored enough pre-board and not favored enough post-board such that it's still a bad matchup.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're probably going to get game 1, and then they just have to steal one of the other 2 games, and the deck is really good at that. They
just have to hazard at you when you don't have the contempt, and it's like...
Yeah, exactly.
The daisy.
And... I just think I'm also not as favoured post-board as I thought I was. I think I remembered a lot of the games where I was winning, because it takes you way longer to win than it does to lose. So you're sitting there ticking up like 3 planeswalkers, being like, oh, I'm so good at this game, I'm beating these people so hard, and then like you lose game 3 because they just like quickly hazard at you on the play.
Right.
But you like don't remember that. You just remember the games where you were like plussing Chandra, reveal Khan, cast Khan, plus Khan. Like get 2 live spells. Ha ha! I'm so good.
I see what you mean.
I think I lose a bunch of points
there.
against control. Yeah, I think I lose a bunch of points against control with the build I had because it had no 1-drops and had magma sprays in the main, so you just lose way more game 1s. Where you draw like multiple magma sprays or like you just have more removal spells, so you just lose a bit more against control.
I see that.
And so in general, I felt pretty medium about the decision, and like I just wasn't actually favoured enough against enough of the room for it to be a good deck choice, and that I should have just played the more aggressive variant and gotten good at like just playing the mirror.
What do you think about the idea of just sort of playing mono red in that tournament?
I mean, mono red is also probably a very straightforward good choice. Obviously, it was a good enough choice that it won the event.
For sure.
But I'm not sure that like it's weird, but a deck winning the event obviously isn't actually indicative that it was the right choice. It can be a strong suggesting factor, but it's not actually like, you know, like if Blue White Gift had won the event, it wouldn't be me. It wouldn't be me being like, oh yeah, Blue White Gift was the deck everybody should have been on.
Yep.
Because
they put 3 in the top 8, I think.
One
of them was the Flame deck though.
Yeah, I think there was like 2...
which is the Flame of Cal deck. And then I think there were 2 mono red decks. And then 3 red-black decks. And then a couple of blue-whites, one of which was Plane Approach. Were they both Plane Approach?
One of which was Plane Approach, I believe. That was Javier Dominguez.
That's it.
Who afterwards had said, like, I think somebody asked him about it, and he was like, yeah, I don't know. I don't really know how to play control, so I just play combo control.
And it got him to a top 4 finish, so good job there. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what let's talk about what I played. I played Steel Leaf Stompy, Splashing Blue, which we talked about last week. I played 4 Galta main, Ripjaw Raptor, which was a mistake. And I actually think that playing green in general might be a mistake right now. In general. I kind
of agree with that.
Think that the deck is good enough. I think the deck is really, really solidly tier 2. I don't think it has as good a mono-red matchup as it seems. Like, you have... It's definitely a favourable matchup, but I don't think it's a slam dunk. And I think if it's not a slam dunk against mono-red, then I don't really understand why you should play the deck. I think
if you're not beating every mono red player you sit down against, then why would you sleeve it up?
Yeah, I think that I played Spell Pierce instead of Negate, and I think that was fantastic. I played 3 Nature's Way rather than kind of 2 sort of been the standard, and I thought that was really good because I think it's your best post-board card in just quite a lot of matchups. You tend to play this game 1 kind of combo plan of make the biggest man very, very fast, and then post-board, when everybody brings in their ways of disrupting you, which more on that later, Galta gets a lot worse, so you tend to go down to 2 quite often post-board, try and control things a little bit. I played 2 Carnage Tyrants, which was, I mean, good in the kind of garbage time games I had in the final. Actually, I think one of those was garbage time. Anyway, I beat blue-black. The blue-black matchup is good against blue-black control. I think the blue-black mid-range matchup might be bad. More on blue-black mid-range later, because I think that's a good deck. So I think overall, it's just, I mean, I think I made the right choices in construction outside of Ripjaw Raptor. I think I've, going forward, the list I've got at the moment is playing a bit more kind of the Greenbelt Rampager and a main deck Nissa, which is quite good with Heart Kieran and stuff like that. The mono green Nissa to be specific, because we are playing green-blue. Anyway, I think the deck's okay. I'm kind of done with it. I'm not going to play it in any more sort of individual events. We'll talk about the RPTQ later, because I think it's a consideration for that, but I'm not even sure about that anymore, to be quite honest. Good.
Will you bring in your Carnage Tyrants against mono red?
No.
Okay. I think it's maybe right to.
Potentially. I think I brought it in against the red-black builds. But against Monoreds, I may be on the play. I'm not sure.
So the thing to me is that it's not even about being an aggressive card, although it can obviously shift to that quite well. It's that it's like the best blocker in the entire world.
Yeah, I think my concern is it getting stuck in your hand because this deck is so easily disruptible, and it's all well and good playing 4 Blossoming Defense and 2 Spell Pierce, but it's so easy to just draw your Botanical Sanctum on turn 4 and like have to play your champion or your Brontodon and just get tempoed into the ground with a Blossoming Defense in your hand, or you have to keep hands that are reliant on dorks. And I mean, it's just, again, post board there's just all this removal, and you're just, your dorks are getting killed and you're getting stuck with things in your hand, and the deck's very, very disruptible.
Sure. I mean, it could be. I could be wrong. I'm just thinking back to like the Naya builds.
Yeah.
Or like the Naya decks, I guess, and like the green red monsters decks. And they were, the conventional wisdom was to bring in your Carnage Tyrants against mono red because it basically just completely shut down the ground.
Yeah, and I feel that. I mean,
Although now that they're all playing Phoenix,
this is what I was going to say. Like against the just Glorybringer, maybe, but Glorybringer and Phoenix is just such an air force, and blocking, you don't actually often have a problem gumming up the ground, I find. I mean, obviously, Hazoret's an issue, but sometimes, you have a Ronus or something, which is difficult to deal with, and that tends to do a good job of shutting down the ground. Boat was really good. Sky Sovereign in general, that's a good Magic card, and I think that we're in a spot where it's pretty decent, despite all the Abrades flying around. I still think that the card is good. Swings games. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm kind of done talking about mono green for now. I think we can bring it back up when we get to the RPTQ later.
Yeah, sure. That was my only point on mono green. I think that in general, I mostly agree with you that I think the deck is fine.
Mm-hmm.
It has very nutty draws, but overall is not that exciting.
Mm-hmm. That's it. Yeah. I feel that. So, Greater Scotland, I think there were 7 of us. So 3 of us from the vault, yourself, myself, and Papa Smith, Andrew. And we had Duncan, Luke, Ferg, and someone else.
Was it someone else?
No, maybe it's just 6 then. Okay. So pretty. Not a lot of people showed up, basically. Some folks are away and stuff like that.
A good number of people are in Vegas.
Yes, that's true. A big part of the Glasgow contingent, although some of them, I'm not sure how much they GP nowadays anymore. But anyway, not a huge present, and only Tang day 2, unfortunately. So not a very good conversion rate. But yeah, shout out to the boys. Still had a good time, and Copenhagen was lovely. Really, really lovely. It was 25 to 30 degrees. I actually went out a bit early. I was out on the Wednesday night, staying with some old friends I've not seen in a long time. And the city's just pretty magic, actually. And the weather was very, very cooperative.
I arrived very late on the Friday and left very late on the Sunday. So, I saw very little of the city. Although, the bits I did see were very nice.
It's really good. We also
spent most of my time in the Mines of Moria, drumming in the deep and losing at Magic the Gathering.
Oh, good weekend spent away from home.
All the bits of it that weren't Magic were really good. All the Magic bits from me being like, man, I think I made the wrong decisions. Why am I drawing 5 tap lands?
Yeah, I feel that. We also had Ryanair trouble on the way home, so nothing new there.
I'm not sure what the trouble was. We just sat
they never
there.
told us.
Yeah, we just sat there. Well, no, I guess we figured it out. The pilot told us, but like we were just sitting there. Our plane was meant to leave at 10, and we were sitting there at like 10:30, still in the airport, without a gate, and without any updates from anyone. Just like, oh, well, I guess we're waiting. Eventually, around 11, it says like, oh, your flight is boarding. Go to this gate. And we're like, oh, okay.
On the other side of the world.
Should we run? I guess we should run. I don't really know. We get there. We get on the plane eventually. And the pilot's like, yeah, we went into like some air traffic control something or other. It was very unclear.
Very unclear. We did have 7. Gary was there.
Oh yeah, Gary Campbell.
He was trying to. You're right.
I had dinner with that guy on the Saturday night. I should definitely remember Gary.
And then he was saying, "Have you got any Nature's Way?" And I was like, "Well, I've got as many as I own, which is all of them that I'm playing." And none of the vendors had any. So once again, Gary embarked on a GP with not enough sideboard cards. Unfortunately, this time it didn't pan out quite so well. But
yeah, this time he wasn't playing a deck whose main deck was quite as good against the field as last time.
For sure. So let's talk about some standard in the context of the RPTQ. Sean Ferguson won at PPTQ and has asked us to be on his team, which is fantastic. So a big shout out to Sean. And we've been trying to figure out what our config is, and it's pretty difficult.
There's a lot of... I think that the level 1 is still, like, reasonable. But there's a lot of ways you can go with it, and there's a lot of interesting directions to take.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of, like, implications about the format, because obviously you can just be like, well, we'll just play 3 good decks, done.
So let's rewind a little. Let's talk about what Unified Standard is for anyone who's not familiar.
Sure. I guess it's not exactly a very widely played format.
Exactly, yeah. So you've got 3 players on a team, so Standard Team Magic. Everybody's playing Standard. The rule is that if you have a card in one of the 3 decks, it cannot be present in either of the other 2. That's it, right? There's nothing weird that I'm forgetting. Them's the rules. So the level 1 that we just covered, I think this is generally agreed upon, is to be playing a red deck. Every config at any level is always going to have a red deck, which is either mono red or red black. You can play, and then you can play blue white and mono green. I think that if you play mono red, it gives you the choice to play snake if you want, which is not something that I'm excited about at all. But these are all kind of level 1 ballpark configurations. So as we said, I think that you're pretty much always playing red. I mean, to be quite honest, I think I would say that the 2 most cuttable colors in Standard at the moment are probably the most is green. I think there's quite a few configs where you don't even have to play green, and I know that sounds a bit mad, but I think it's pretty fine. And then I've seen a few configs that aren't playing white. Thoughts on this? I'm a lot less excited about not playing white, but let's talk about not playing green, I guess.
So if we're not playing green, we're playing red, blue, black, and blue, white, like blue, black, mid-range.
That's it.
Okay.
And then you have to put a non-negate card in the blue-black mid-range deck.
You can do that.
But you can do that fine.
You can play Supreme Will, you can play Jace's Defeat. You can even play like one of the weird cancels. Maybe like Admiral's Order or Wizard's Retort.
I've seen blue-black mid-range lists. Well, actually, Jerry released his today. Well, certainly recently. Yeah, it is today. With only 1 negate in the board. So, I think this is perfectly reasonable. And I think it's a very justifiable configuration. I don't know if it's something I want to go with, but while we're talking about that configuration, because, I mean, one thing that we said is that we're not going to talk about red and red black too much. These are known entities now, and we've sort of, everybody's talking about them.
I think, the accepted wisdom of the unified thing is you have to have a red deck because the red decks are too good to not have a red deck.
Mm-hmm. I also think, you have to have a blue and a black somewhere. Again, I can't. Yeah. It's really difficult to make configs. Red is obviously the utmost, and you're right, the top of the kind of pecking order. But it's very difficult to come up with configs that don't play blue or black. So as we said, red's going to be there.
You could have like red and then green white and then. What decks even exist?
If green white is your second deck, then I'm not excited at all.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to figure it out. Like, if we wanted to not play like blue, let's say, I guess mono black. Bam! Did it. Cut blue.
Good job. We're not going to do that though. So the other one is blue-white, which again, blue-white's been a known entity since week 1. I think the major choice right now is whether or not you want to play approach or not. Which, yeah, I mean, I'm really not sure, and I don't feel like I really want to make that choice. I think one interesting thing to note before we move on to more exciting pastures is that all these decks have sort of embraced Teferi fully and are now just playing the full 4.
Turns out, good Magic cards, you want to play as many of them as possible.
There you go. There's a good number of Walking Ballista showing up, and History of Benalia is now seems to be pretty standard. Although, yeah, no, I would say that. There's still some Baral configurations kicking around, which I think are could be right. But, I mean, I personally don't really want to figure all of that out just now.
I have not played nearly enough Blue-White to know what is right. Like, what the right 15th sideboard card to play is.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about Blue-Black Midrange, because I think that's a really exciting deck for right now. And I think a good place to start is Jerry's build, which I think we can run through real quick, and we can put that in the show notes as well, just for reference. So the creature suite is 2 Torrential Gear Hulk, 4 Champion of Wits, 4 Glint Sleeve Siphoner, 2 the Scarab God. There's 1 5-mana Lily in the main.
Sure, that makes sense.
The spell config is 2 Cast Down, 1 Commit, 3 Essence Scatter, 3 Fatal Push, 1 Glimmer, 2 Supreme Will, 4 Vraska's Contempt, 2 Arguel's Bloodfast, 2 Doomfall, 1 Never to Return. Sideboard is 2 Deadeye Trackers, 1 more Cast Down, 2 Essence Extraction, 1 Fatal Push, so the 4th there is in the side, another Glimmer, 2 Jace's Defeat, a single Negate, 2 Confiscation Coup, 3 Duress. I really like the 75, just so we're clear. It's a 26 land deck.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Scarab God makes lands good.
Yeah, I also think that this is very much a definitely a hit all your land drops kind of deck, and you can just bury people, specifically if you've got like an unanswered Glint Sleeve, or you just get into a position where you can comfortably eternalize a Champion of Wits.
Yeah, Bloodfast and Champion of Wits. Like, it has so many different like bits that make drawing your 8th land good, that I can definitely get on board with playing 26 lands. Plus, you get to play Fetid Pools, so, you know. Yep.
And you get enough space for a couple of Field of Ruins, which is very, very good at answering the Escantas of the world. I want to talk about some of the points that he brings up in the article, because I think it's really relevant, and this is an SCG premium, so not everybody's necessarily going to have access. One concept he talks about a lot is velocity, and about how the deck is just about making your land drops and ensuring that you can multi-spell later. He talks about ensuring that, you know, given the choice, if you on turn 5, if you have the choice of playing a 5-drop or a 3 and a 2-drop, unless it's playing the Scarab God and you're just stone cold dead to a removal spell, it is very, very common. The recommendation is to play the larger spell, and therefore give you more flexibility in the later turns to play a turn 6 of some crazy kind of double spell turn. I find that really interesting, just as a kind of a playstyle thing, I guess, for a concept to apply to generally to how you play out, how you curve out, essentially. And it's an interesting heuristic, but I think it's like particularly relevant for this deck, given it's, a mid-range deck full of removal spells.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure that you use all your mana every turn on your most... I'm not sure that play your most expensive spell every turn is a revolutionary concept, but I'm definitely interested in this sort of thing in one of the seats at the RPTQ. Partly because, as you say, it gives you the option of not playing any green decks, when I think green is pretty medium right now. It's just... So, it's weird. We just got Llanowar Elves back, and green is at one of the lowest points it's been in a while in Standard. Maybe that's not true. Maybe it was at a lower point before.
I think so. I think there's been a time where there was a divot between Team Energy being off the map and Steel Leaf rolling around, where green was pretty weak. I'm trying to think.
But, that should still tell you something, because it's not like green got Steel Leaf, Llanowar Elves. Did you get any other, new cards from Dominaria?
I think that's it. I'm just thinking.
Yeah.
A lot of the cards that you're playing otherwise are, cards that have been around a while, essentially.
Yeah. So what that should tell you is that those cards aren't inherently, very powerful.
Right.
They fit into these, mono green or maybe these green-white decks, but they're not inherently great cards.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they were, they'd probably be showing up. They probably have been showing up and keeping green afloat for a longer time. Instead, they only show up when other good cards make green a bit better.
Right.
So I guess what I'm thinking is basically that, my point is more that I feel like green is actually quite underpowered in Standard right now because it just doesn't have the breadth of the other colours.
Okay.
Where blue can play these mid-range decks and these control decks. And hell, there's even a blue aggro deck somewhere. The blue Tempest Djinn decks aren't very good.
Right.
But
they exist and
they can kill you pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So there's blue mid-range aggro and control decks. There's red mid-range aggro, and there's even some red-black control decks. So, well, there was that one.
Yeah.
But red shows up in all levels because the cards that both of those colors have are just individually very strong.
I mean, it's a lot to do with interaction as well. I mean, it's just very difficult to play triple green and also interaction in the same deck.
That's definitely true. The fact that blue and red both natively have interaction, is strong. But green has gotten away with. Green has had good interactive spells before, Dromoka's Command. Obviously, was also white, but it was a green good interactive spell.
Mm-hmm.
All of the good interactive bits of it were the green bits.
Yep.
There's been points in time where green, was very strong and had very strong cards to go along with its bread and butter things like Llanowar Elves.
Yeah, or
but I don't feel like
Harness Lightning deck, which obviously, yeah.
Well, I don't even just mean that. I mean, there have been points in time where you could play mono green. In Theros, you could play green, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was just good because you had Polykranos and stuff like that.
Right, and you had interaction stable on there.
Yeah, and you had inherently just strong cards to go along with the color and the things that color normally brings to the table. Whereas at the moment, green's cards just aren't that strong compared to blue's cards and red's cards. Red gets such insane cards. Red gets Chandra and Glorybringer and Chainwhirler and Bomat Courier and Earthshaker Kenra and Karizev.
And Phoenix.
And Phoenix. I always forget about Phoenix. Stupid Phoenix.
Phoenix is really good.
Red gets such absurd cards. Black gets quite strong cards. I don't think there's any black cards that individually are very strong.
Yeah, but Duress is probably one of the strongest cards in Standard right now.
Yeah, that's sort of true. But just in general, there's been successful mono black decks, and black makes for quite a strong controlling color, and would make for a reasonable aggressive color if Chainwhirler wasn't a card.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We've got Carstan, which is obviously a new edition, and Fatal Push is still around. You have this fantastic suite of cheap interaction. Yeah.
And then white is also quite strong, I think, although because of the way their interaction works out, you're pigeonholed into being reactive. Because the aggressive white decks are all really, really bad against Chainwhirler to the point where you can't play them.
Yep.
And you can't, it's hard to be aggressive mid-range in white because your white interactive spells aren't good at being aggressive mid-range.
Yep.
Because Seal Away doesn't... You're just alright, seal away your blocker. Oh, it doesn't work.
I think we all did that week one, and we thought,
I definitely didn't do that. I just wished. But yeah, I don't know. I guess my point is that it's very possible, looking at the actual cards that are in Standard, especially with the fact that a lot of Green's best cards, well, probably Green's best card, which is a green-blue card, but still, it's a reason to play green. That card is on the Standard ban list. Actually, okay, I'm going to make... Actually, no. 2 of Green's best cards are on the Standard ban list. One of them is a green-blue uncommon, and the other one is a colorless mythic rare. Green just doesn't have a lot of raw power behind it. If you're not making a 5-4 on turn 3, you're not actually doing anything that's that strong, I don't think.
Yep.
Against what people are doing around you in the format.
Yeah, turn 2 Steel Leafs, and turn 3/4 Galta. Well, 3 is obviously very rare, but turn 4 Galta's not inconceivable. I do think that Blossoming Defense is like a huge reason why the deck can exist, and I've even seen some. I saw a Japanese RPTQ list, which was playing main deck Shaper's Sanctuary. I was just thinking, whoa.
I was about to say, actually, I think that the sideboard tools out of green might rival Black's like powerful sideboard tools.
Life Crusher's Bestiary is really good, for sure.
Yeah, Life Crusher's Bestiary and Shaper's Sanctuary are both like very, very powerful tools.
And arguably Carnage Tyrant currently.
Yeah, no, I can see Carnage Tyrant as well. I'm just not really into green at this point in time. I don't think Snake is that good, despite the fact that actually I don't think he's trophy leader anymore, but he's still like very, very high on the leaderboard. Despite Jeff Cunningham's insane ability to win both in the mocks and in like leagues with green black.
Yeah.
I've not seen anyone else replicate this. And I don't understand how he does it.
No, it's kind of all a bit mad and inconceivable, but yep, he's doing it.
But like, other than that, other than his performance, green black seems terrible to me. So, okay. Yeah. And mono green seems only alright. And I have very, very little experience with these green-white decks.
I want to talk about those, because I do think that they are an option and they've got strengths, but they're definitely a third deck kind of thing. Let's finish up on blue-black mid-range.
Sure, yeah. We were talking about that.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, just a couple of headlines. Golden Sleeve Siphon is just a really good Magic card. And obviously...
Yes, as long as you don't... play against what card? What card could beat this one? Man, yeah, no, I agree. It's a bit like Bomat Courier.
Sure. Yeah. It runs
the upside when it works is worth the downside when it doesn't.
I do think the big point with both of those cards is that you're just going to be sideboarding them out against the Chainwhirler decks, and they're just absolute slam dunks against the against the non-Chainwhirler decks. So I don't know. I mean, Golden Sleeve Siphon is still one of my favorite cards in Standard. I mean, who'd have thunk it, a Bob. So I'm really intrigued by this. Just this card in this build and playing 4 of them and just being very kind of brave about it and saying like, well, this is great. Arguel's Bloodfast, 2 in the main. Jerry contends that these are uncuttable, that you shouldn't be sideboarding them out against aggressive mid-range or control decks. And that your plan against extreme aggression is just to transform the thing.
I buy it.
And I think that's really interesting. And I think that's something that I found when I was playing the mono black deck, where sometimes I'd be, sideboarding out the Arguels and just thinking like, oh, well, this is what I should be doing. And then thinking, and it's even more important in that deck, just because you're not even playing Glimmer of Genius or anything like that, or Champion of Wits to, recoup some card advantage. So, I think that's a hugely pivotal piece in the deck. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, Bloodfast obviously gives you like these free wins against control game 1. You just go, you played an irrigated farmland. That's nice. I'm going to play this Arguel's Bloodfast on turn 2. Oh, you can't remove it now. I'm going to just draw cards.
Yeah.
For the next like 3 or 4 turns, I'm just going to draw cards. And like I make my land drops and just like get super ahead of you in resources. So it's insane. It's an insane slam dunk against control, and then against some of the mid-range strategies, it's okay. Against others, the front half isn't that exciting, but the back half actually is like very strong. Like you're not playing quite enough creatures to make it insane, but there's definitely points in time where like you play a Torrential Gear Hulk against your mono red opponent with a flipped Bloodfast in play. And you like flashback a Glimmer, and your opponent abraids it, and you go, okay, I'll gain 6 instead.
Yep, that's pretty. Yeah, I mean that's suddenly, such a swing.
Like, yeah, they're not gonna kill you. Like, you've stabilized the board, and they can't lightning strike you anymore to death because you're at like 9 now rather than 3. And I do think it gives you strong options against aggressive decks.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'm particularly excited by activating the front half very often against mono red.
For sure, but I mean, you just do it once or twice, and that's just what you need to sort of get back into the game, I feel, in certain sort of board states and patterns.
I actually don't think that would be that common in that many patterns.
I think it can on the play.
Maybe. I don't know. I feel like mono red tempos you so hard, and spending 6 mana and 4 life to draw 2 cards is not... Like, Glimmer is already quite bad in that matchup.
Yeah, no, you're right, because it's the initial mana investment. I like the point where if you've got it, as long as you don't tap it, you can protect your Scarab God from Vraska's Contempt. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, that is also another, like, weird upside to be able to play alongside it. But it is good.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm definitely on board with it. I looking at this list, I think it's just, like, probably good. I guess the other thing, actually, is if you're going to play this, and you're going to play blue-white in the same configuration, your blue-white deck, you have to figure out who gets the Glimmer of Genius, and who gets the Essence Scatters.
That's a good point. Yeah. I think that you can do a kind of Glimmer and Hieroglyphic Illumination kind of split, but the Essence Scatters are really problematic.
I think you can probably just play blue-white without them.
I just think Essence Scatter's so good right now.
I think it's good in the blue-black deck, but I don't think it's that exciting in the blue-white deck.
Why?
Because they just have they have a million more ways of dealing with creatures and catching up.
Oh, for sure. Like, give them the choice and everything, but I just feel like if I'm wanting to play blue-white in an ideal configuration, I'm going to want a couple of Essence Scatters, if not 3.
I very much disagree. Most blue-white lists have, like, 1.
If you look at the GP lists, that wasn't the case. I don't know. I think with the rise of Gearhulk at the moment, which is, again, something that is brought up, like,
again... People play more Gearhulks.
Jerry talks about this. You've got Gearhulk, Phoenix, Scarab God now, again, Hazoret. Again, I don't want to seem like I'm just kind of reading off this article, but I just think these are all really interesting points and kind of fresh in my mind as to, thinking about how I want to approach Standard. I get what you mean.
So, like, Martin Dang was playing 3 Essence Scatters, but Javier was only playing 2.
Yeah, no, I said 2, if not 3. That's what I said.
Sure. Okay, I still think that, like, it's not even that exciting of a card for blue-white.
Okay.
I think it's just fine.
Sure.
I think that you could probably get away with playing, like, an additional Syncopate, or, like, Sensors or something. Like, we've definitely had blue-white decks that have succeeded in metagames like this, that were playing, like, stuff like that instead of Essence Scatter. And Essence Scatter is commonly one of the least exciting cards in the deck, I feel.
And you can, if you're not playing a Gideon's Reproach, you can play a Gideon's Reproach or something like that, just another way of interacting with the kind of aggressive draws.
Sure. Yeah, I think you can do any of those things. Because the thing is that, like, yeah, countering a Phoenix is important, but in blue-white, is it that important?
No, for sure. You're right. You're a seal away deck.
The only thing that's not exiling the Phoenix is Fumigate, which... I don't know, like, do you need to Fumigate if, I just, like, I don't see it as being, like, an integral piece of the blue-white deck.
I agree with that. No, I agree with that. I guess what I'm just contending is its overall place is great, but you're absolutely right that, obviously, the blue-white deck's got a whole bunch of other answers. I like some of the C's main deck choices. I know that the cards generally can seem a little bit mopey, but they just give you so much flexibility, I feel, in game ones. So the cards that I'm specifically talking about are Supreme Will and Doomfall, which both feel a little bit like, these are fine, as kind of main deck considerations.
Yeah. Doomfall's never exciting on its front, in either mode, really. It's more the fact that you can pick which one. Like, so if you're on the play and your opponent plays a Scrappy Scrounger on turn 2, you can kill it. And if if your opponent plays an Irrigated Farmland, you can Doomfall their face and, like, take a card out of their hand.
Yeah.
I've definitely had games where I, like, Doomfall my opponent, and I see, like, 3 amazing 4-drops, and I spent my turn 3 Doomfalling, and it's, like, going into their turn 4, and I'm like, oh, this is the worst. I'm going to die.
This is really problematic, absolutely. I do think
because I spent my entire turn 3 thought-seizing my opponent. And that was really bad.
But the ability to just kind of, obviously, just not be a good card against control decks is fantastic. And if you're playing it in a deck with, all these cast downs and fatal pushes and all these sort of point removal spells, then you can generally edict fairly well. Unlike, some decks which are kind of, I don't know, I saw at some point there were these kind of red-black decks which, obviously, you've got the Abrades and things like that, but, you're not quite to the point where you're pushing it to have quite as many removal spells as this deck. So, yeah, I don't know. I think that these cards are interesting and kind of give you a lot of that kind of game one flexibility. in terms of how you can approach matchups, and I think that's exciting.
I mean, Supreme Will is like slightly better on either of its faces than Doomfall is.
Okay.
I think. 3 mana Impulse. I mean, Doomfall is probably 1 mana more expensive than in the same way that Supreme Will is. Like Supreme Will, it's like. I guess the thing to me is that Doomfall is 1 mana more expensive for a card they would actually print into Standard, if you know what I mean.
I see.
Like 2 mana, target opponent reveals his or her hand, you choose an online card from it, exile that card. That would see play. That would see print in Standard, I think, sometimes. Not all the time, but there were definitely times where I could see that. And 2 mana, target opponent exiles a creature he or she controls at sorcery speed. I can definitely see Standard environments where they print that.
For sure.
Whereas Supreme Will is like, I can't see that many Standard environments where they print Mana Leak, and I can't see that many Standard environments where they print Impulse at the mana costs that they're at. So I guess what my point is more, I feel like you're paying slightly less for each mode with Supreme Will.
Okay.
In that, like, I think that those are more like 2.5 mana effects, and Supreme Will costs 3, whereas Doomfall is like kind of 2 mana effects. I don't know. It might literally get to the point where Doomfall is like 2.25 mana effects, but I don't know. Either way, I think basically my point is more that I think Supreme Will on its face is a slightly higher quality card, as you're not overpaying it by as much. And like early game, it is basically just disallow with a slightly less strict mana requirement, and late game, you can hope to find something better. Which is good in a deck like this that has a million one-ofs.
Yeah, no, I really like that, especially post-board. Although it is sort of one of those cards that you might be looking to shave post-board, actually, the more I think about it, because it is kind of... It just feels like a very game one-y kind of card, and you might want to get a bit more specific, but you might be wanting to look for things as well and dig, so it's hard to say. Let's talk about the sideboard.
Every single board plan that Jerry posted has some number of Supreme Wills coming out. So
does it? Oh god, yeah. I didn't scroll down. Okay, interesting. Let's talk about sideboard real quick. 2 Jace's Defeat is really nice.
The card's really good. Going to counter opposing Scarab Gods.
Yeah.
And Teferi and Gearhulk and winning counter wars.
It's all great. It's just all lovely and great. Deadeye Tracker's an interesting one, obviously, for grinding. I mean, it also means that you aren't stone dead to Godbearers. Yes, I was going to say Graveyard Interaction's good. Essence Extraction feels very mopey, but I think I'm a bit okay about it if I'm a Gearhulk deck.
It's like exclusively good when you're playing Gearhulk as well, I think, because I actually think it's bad against mono red otherwise, to a degree, because I think that going even with them and gaining 3 life can often be a losing proposition, especially on the draw. If you go if they play a Chain Whirler and you're like, all right, or even worse, if they play an Ironcrop Crasher, hit you for 3, and you're like, all right, untap, extract the Ironcrop Crasher, I gain back the life you hit me for, and they're like, okay, play a Hazoret, hit you for 5, and you're like, oh,
this is
all horrible. I keep taking damage. And my turn 3 didn't catch me up, so I have to have drawn Nuts Perfect, Fatal Push your Bomat, cast down your 2-drop, then Essence Extract your 3-drop, or I'm behind at some point in that curve. If you're on the draw, which I mean, I think the likelihood against mono red is you're gonna have to win a game on the draw, and one of those games is probably gonna be post board.
I think you're right. Confiscation Queue is real nice. If you're a Ether Hub Siphon, well, Ether Hub and Siphon obviously go hand in hand, but in Ether Hub plus Glimmer of Genius, Queue's just pretty great right now. There's so many just massive Haymaker creatures. Obviously, Scarab Gods making a bit of a return, but we talked about Hazoret, we talked about Phoenix.
It is slightly annoying that most of the big Haymaker creatures that are great to steal are 5 mana. Glorybringer, Scarab God.
Yep.
Hazoret is okay to steal, I guess. Yeah, it's pretty good to steal. I'll definitely steal my opponent's Hazoret if I have the choice. What was the name of the other card that we just talked about? Rekindling Phoenix. I can't remember what that card is. I feel like... man. All right. But Phoenix is also quite good to steal. Although not like the nuts, because you steal it and it just turns into a 4-3.
Yeah. I was playing the mirror at the GP, the mono green splash blue mirror, and I made a turn 4 Galta on the play. Yeah, and it got Kefnet's last worded. I was just like, oh man, this is terrible.
Yeah, I saw that. It was bad.
It was so bad.
Confiscation Coup is not good against Galta. Do not play that
It's
card.
not good against Galta at all. So, yeah, and we got, some good cards outside of that. The extra Glimmer, the extra Push, extra Cast Down, 3 Duress. This is all good stuff. Really big fan of this deck. And I think that, yeah, we should be considering this very heavily for the config. Let's talk about green-white a bit, because I think that it's very often people's quote-unquote third deck. I feel like we've talked about green quite a lot.
Yeah, we definitely talked about green a bit.
But at the same time...
To its detriment, I feel.
I do think that this is defensible. I'm not sure, but I do quite like the kind of the big angel package in combination with blossoming defenses. And I actually think Arjani Unyielding is a pretty good planeswalker right now. And although he is 6 mana, you've got all these dorks. And then what I really like about this deck when I look at it is that, okay, I'm playing 8 dorks. That's a lot. Got to kind of buckle up there a little bit. But it's also playing 24 lands, which the green decks are very often, the mono green decks are often playing 22. And although obviously, we're presenting a much bigger risk of flood here because we've just got all of these lands basically in forms of creatures.
32 mana sources in our deck.
But you're a 4 of Walking Ballista deck. You're
and a Shalai deck.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. You're also a Shalai deck. You have things to do with all of this. And also, what I love is that you can have your servant die and not lose the game. And that's a huge distinction between this deck and the mono green decks. And I don't think either of these are defensible choices when it comes to individual tournaments. But if I have to play green at the RPTQ, I want to play this. I've not even sleeved a game of this, but after having played a lot of mono green and listening to some, folks that have played this, this is what I would be looking at if we're going to play green that weekend.
I can definitely believe it. The decks look like they have some amount of power behind them, and you get to transform pretty interestingly post-board with access to Settle and Fumigate. And playing main deck Lyra does give you just some number of immediate wins in game 1. And you have all these mono red.
You have these big haymakers too. I'm really not sure about the Rish card. That's always the card I feel really dubious about when I look at the list. But to give you guys an idea, it's 4 Walking Ballista, 8 Dorks. Usually playing some number of Jade Lights and Brontodons and Rish cards in the 3-drop slot. And then you're ramping into Shalai, Angel of Sanctions, Lyra, Ajani, and Boat. Main deck spells are usually sort of 3 Blossoming Defense seems to be standard and a couple of Cast Out with, with the Thopter Arrests in the side or Ixalan's Binding, whatever additional removal spells you want to play on the side to pivot. I don't know. I think this is all pretty exciting, but it's not specifically for Unified. I think that it has a good red matchup. Seems to be the talk, and a horrible control matchup, which makes sense. So make of that what you will, I think.
Yeah, the control matchup is something that would worry me.
Yeah, that's definitely a concern and a knock against the deck. So
I mean, is that enough of a knock? Because I guess I kind of want to talk about the specifics of Unified.
Sure.
And the things that they change about the format. Because, so you have a 33% chance when you sit down of playing against a Chain Whirler deck.
Yeah.
Because every team will have one.
Yeah.
And you have a 33% chance when you sit down of playing against a control deck. Because almost every team will have one.
Yeah.
Is that more or less than in a normal tournament?
I think for the Chain Whirler thing, it might be the same right now.
I think it might be less.
Less? Genuinely less?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I don't know. I think it might be about that, really. I mean, I know that sort of Goldfish data and all that kind of stuff isn't representative anymore. But we're thinking between the aggressive red-black decks, the more mid-rangey red-black decks, and the mono-red decks, you're thinking it's more than 33% in an individual tournament right now.
I mean, it definitely was at the Pro Tour, and I think that Certainly going forward, it will be more than 33%.
Okay.
Of the field. Especially if you're winning, I think you have a more than 33% chance of facing a Chain Whirler deck.
Okay.
I mean, my point is, like, you have a 66% chance of not facing a Chain Whirler deck.
Yes. And that's that's exploitable, certainly.
Yeah. I think that's reasonably exploitable. I mean, the other option is, like... So you can take the approach of, okay, well, we can play a deck that's bad against Chain Whirler, because we have, like, an actually better than 50% chance of just never facing Chain Whirler with that deck. You can also take the approach of, well, every team will have a red deck.
Right.
So we'll play a red deck ourselves, because it's too powerful not to play. And we'll play 2 decks that are really good at abusing red decks.
Right.
I think that's hard. I think it's really difficult to find decks that abuse red decks, but that's the theory, at least, is that you could, like, abuse the fact that red is too powerful not to play by playing things that are good against it.
Sure.
Unfortunately, I think that one is slightly undone by the fact that the red's just so good.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
I'm not sure there is 2 decks that are good enough against red while not just conceding their other matches. And
there's a big difference, actually, because there's some decks that, mono green specifically, we can talk about, that has a, good mono red matchup. Not like a slam dunk by any means, but a good one. And a pretty poor red black matchup. So even then, you're sort of aiming for one of the Chain Whirler decks at that point, and that feels really weird.
Yeah, I think you have to be in a position where you're good against both, and I actually think that's quite hard, because I don't think that even any of the control decks are good against both, really.
So that's really tricky. Do we have anything else to say about green-white?
Not really. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that blossoming defensing a Lyra when your opponent tries to contempt it is the best feeling in the world.
Yeah, no, I'm really into that. So that's kind of my feeling.
And I'm sure it will show up in a good number of configurations and actually will perform relatively well.
Yep. That's the case.
Especially because, to me, if you actually look at it, it's using the good cards out of green, i.e. the Mana Dorks.
And Brontodon, I think, is a good one.
Brontodon is also a good card out of green. But it's using those good cards out of green to support a bunch of really good white cards.
Yep. And obviously the other good green cards that, we talked about earlier are Steel Leaf, and you're not going to be playing Steel Leaf in your, straight dual color deck.
Yeah, you can't play that many planes, and you definitely can't play, like, Settle the Wreckage and Steel Leaf.
Sure.
Well, that is the sickest way to win the mirror, right?
Oh, God.
You swing all out of your opponent's like, what an idiot! He's left himself dead on board. Swing back with everything, and you're like, ha! Settle! And your opponent doesn't see this coming, despite you playing multiple Scattered Groves and Sunpetal Groves. Everything's a grove in green-white. Why is everything a grove?
You have to do some weird stuff post-board, such as Heroic Intervention and Prowling Serpapod.
I'm so into Prowling Serpapod.
You do get to play cool stuff like Nissa Vital Force, though, which I'm a big fan of. I'm more a fan of it in Heart of Kieran decks, which is kind of why I like it out of the mono green deck. But it's still a great card. And
hot take. Red, black, and red in general is only so good because control is so good.
Right. Okay.
So these decks are clearly very good and very powerful, but maybe the reason why it's so hard to attack them is because you're also going to face blue-white control in the same tournament.
Yeah, no, I feel that.
It's basically impossible to find something that's really good against both.
And this green-white deck is a perfect example of that dynamic, where it's preying on the red decks, but is pretty cold to, all kinds of control decks. I think that blue-black and blue-white is both bad for this deck, and yeah. No, I think that's a good point.
I'm not sure it's right.
No, I think it's interesting.
I definitely think it's a hot take, but
No, I think it's a cool discussion point. Like,
I think the what we should actually take away from this is that we should ban Teferi rather than Chain Whirler.
Oh.
I'm not advocating for any bans actually on this podcast. This podcast is a ban-free zone.
Ban-free zone.
Except for Aetherworks Marble, that card can get out of here.
So we're gonna play red, right? We're going to play red? What kind of... I mean...
You have to play a red, and which kind of red deck you play depends on what other kinds of deck you want to play.
Yeah.
Do you want to play a Scrap Heap Scrounger deck that's not red? Okay, well, you need to play mono red now.
Oh, although you can play the John Rolfe style mono red with Scrappy, which I think is defensible if you're expecting to play against a lot of Fatal Push.
I mean, yeah. But what I'm saying is, like, do you want in your other seats?
Yeah.
Do you want to play a Scrap Heap Scrounger?
Oh,
deck?
right, for sure. Yeah, okay. Cool.
Like, is Scrap Heap Scrounger going in your red deck, or is it not?
Yeah, no, I understand.
If it's not, you have to play mono red.
Yep.
If it isn't, you can probably make a red black deck work.
Mm-hmm. I think there's definitely been lists
Duress
as well.
Weren't playing. Yeah, there have been lists that haven't been playing Duress, but I don't think it's been very common recently.
Okay. Interesting.
I mean, I can look at some of the GP lists just now, but my memory is that most of them are playing Duress.
Yeah, at least two is kind of number I've been seeing.
I mean, I think you can definitely, if you slot yourself pretty aggressively, then you can get away with not playing it.
Yeah, I believe that.
Christian Alstrom's list has 4 in his sideboard.
Oh, wow.
Lucas Blowhorns has 3. Francisco Sanchez's has 2.
Okay.
So the lowest number there is like 2 Duresses.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, I think a lot of lists are going to be on sort of 3. Seems like the sort of average, I guess, but it's just a good number generally, I feel.
Yeah, 3 is.
If you're also complementing it with
Doom
Falls, that's often the case.
Yes.
Then, you can play like a 3-2 split, which is usually pretty good. So we're going to play Reds, and Sean has been playing quite a bit of blue-black stuff, specifically the blue-black control VTCLA list, I think.
Yeah. The only big docking against blue-black control is that you then don't get to play a different Scarab God deck. So if you play blue-black control, it means that you can't play blue-white and you can't play blue-black mid-range.
Yes.
This isn't necessarily a deal-breaker.
No, but it's just... Yes, it's something.
It's just something to bear in mind.
Mm-hmm.
You're locking off both a Disallow deck and a Scarab God deck in the same seat.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean it's wrong, because I think blue-black control is pretty strong. But it's definitely something to bear in mind.
For sure.
I think I am personally not into the Esper builds going forward.
Okay.
I think you just lose too much equity against mono red. And I'm not sure... I think I've never really been sure why they needed to play Teferi. If you're playing... It's normally like 4 Gearhogs, 2 Scarab Gods, right? Something like that. And then some number of Search Risk counters. Like, Teferi is obviously a very powerful magic card. But I don't see why right now you need him. Because it's not like the red decks are going to run you out of Scarab Gods.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Like, you're gonna like, if you control the game well enough, you're gonna get to resolve a Scarab God and kill people. And Scarab God is still one of the best things you can do against mono red, where you, like, if you're sort of halfway stabilized, a little behind, they have a few creatures on board, whatever, maybe they miss a land drop, and you get to be like, alright, turn 5 Scarab God. Like, kill me now or die.
Like, have the fight with fire, or you're doomed.
Yeah, or or have an Armcrop Crasher, or have the Hazaret. Have a card that invalidates what I'm about to do, or I'm about to make, like, 8/8 worth of power over the course of 2 turns, plus my 5/5, and you're just never going to get through to me, and you're just going to die, because all your creatures are really good when they're 4/4s.
Yeah.
And so, I do think that, and Teferi is terrible there. Like, because Teferi just doesn't let you do the same things, where you're, like, sort of behind, they have some creatures, you play Teferi and you plus, and you're like, oh, well, I'm not playing Seal Away. I guess I'm hoping that I get to Fatal Push 2 of these things. But I'm still kind of behind. I mean... Yeah, Teferi is just not that exciting of a card against mono red, I don't think. And I think the thing is basically that I think there will still be a reasonable number of mono red decks in the room, because mono red is part of level 1.
Yes. And I also think that it's part of...
Also, it's just incredibly successful.
Yeah, and it's also just a part of a lot of the sort of bigger levels, if you will.
Yeah. Because every level has a red deck in it. And so some levels are like, oh, okay, well, you want to play Scrap Heap in this deck, or you want to play Duress in this deck, and we don't really want to play Red-Black without Duress. Or, you want to play Duress and Doomfall in this deck, so we don't want to play Red-Black without Duress and Doomfall, so we'll just play Mono-Red. And because Mono-Red is still good, It just puts you in a situation where you're like, oh, I guess we'll just play this. And so if you're bad, I think that having a really bad mono red matchup is like, or like making your deck worse against mono red is quite bad because it's just guaranteed to be in like some huge number of teams.
I'm just thinking about the control decks basically. I think right now where I'm leaning is playing this blue-black mid-range deck because I think it's just generally a powerful deck for the format. I think I really want to try the blue-black mid-range with the blue-white control deck, giving the scatters to the blue-black deck and the negates to the blue-white deck, and then play mono-red with that. Potentially with Scrappies, John Rolfe style. Because I feel like...
that sounds like a very strong configuration.
I think that you're just going to be seeing quite a bit of Fatal Push. And I think that Scrappy is just really good. I think that you want to be very careful about how many Canyon Saloons you play. John Rolfe plays 1, I think. Yeah, it's 1 with 4 Dragon Skull Summit and 19 Mountains for 24 land total. And he's got a couple of Phoenixes in the main. And I think that this is, pretty cool config. Can maybe make a point for... playing 3 Chandra's Defeat, I think. But outside of that, I really like what's going on in this list. And I think that's an interesting configuration. I think if we want to play the green-white deck, then we can maybe do some kind of green-white, blue-black mid. It doesn't have to make any concessions. And then mono-red, I guess.
You can also play green-white, blue-white control, or blue-black control. No, not blue-white. You can't play blue-white control and green-white.
That's the point,
maybe
right?
Green-white won't make a bunch of
you have to
configs.
You can't split white, basically. So you have to...
because all the good white cards fit into one strategy.
Exactly. So you can split...
You can play green-white, blue-black control and mono-red. Or even just red-black.
Yeah. I mean, you're going without duress there, but that's absolutely fine. And I think... pretty good. So yeah, that's similar to what you can play. I mean, you can play blue-black mid there, right?
I mean, you can.
Yeah, you just play a UBX deck. Well, no, you can't play a UB deck, a green-white deck, and a red deck. That's fine.
You might be able to do Esper, because the green-white deck doesn't play Teferi.
Yeah, that's true. You're not playing... Yep, no, that's fine. You're right. It's just like Teferi and Forsake the Worldly, that's right. So, okay. I think those are the 2 configs that I want. I think that we're at a point where familiarity with these decks is important because there's only so much time, which is what, we've got a week and a half now. So yeah, we're going to get our ducks in a row for that. But yeah, I think that's what we're considering right now. Not really finalized anything, but I think we've pretty much settled on playing blue-black basically, and a red deck and whatever white deck we put next to it. I'm fairly off mono green. I think certainly the blue splash. I did see a couple of the black splashes, which I think that might be okay. Again, I'm just kind of thinking about the fatal pushes and stuff. And just being able to play Scrap Heap is pretty nice, and Scrap Heap interacts really nicely with Explorers, and that's kind of fun. There's also Brennan DeCandio's mental green-black mid-range list, which I don't want to play, but I think is pretty crazy. Which I don't really want to get
Brennan
into.
DeCandio playing a rock deck?
I know, but it's got like 8 Walkers and 2 Eldest Reborn in the main.
Oh,
and
I'm into it.
7 Dorks and 23 lands.
Eldest Reborn. You don't have to say anything after the Eldest Reborn.
I know.
The card is the best card to resolve in Magic.
I love Eldest Reborn. He tweeted about it anyway. If you want to go check it out, it's a pretty cool deck. I don't know if it's good, but yeah.
I doubt it's good.
Yeah.
But sounds sick.
Sounds really cool. So I think that's it for RPTQ stuff. And that's kind of the big thing coming up. Do we have any tournaments this weekend? Do we know?
I literally have dropped off the face of the planet.
I know, we just come back from Denmark, and I spent a couple of days away from work, so work's been caning me since I got back.
I have no idea. So maybe.
Maybe.
Is the answer.
We'll go with maybe. But yeah, RPTQ is kind of the main focus, so we're going to figure out what we're going to play for that. Anything else you want to cover before we Before we
No, I mean, I think there's
off?
lots of interesting ways to approach Unified Standard. I've had lots of people talking about how almost no teams have put their control player in the middle.
Oh yeah.
So normally seating I don't think matters. People put way too much stock into it and freak out about it way too much.
Right.
Just put people in seats that like they're comfortable with. Like put the person who you think is like most comfortable looking away from their game at somebody else's game for like a quick like, hey man, should I keep this hand kind of thing in the middle, and put the other people on the sides, but the rest doesn't really matter. And don't think about like, oh, what if we put the control in the middle? In this case, though, I think the format is narrow enough, and the kind of configs you can get are small enough that I think you can kind of seat meta a little bit.
A little bit.
In that the level 1, I don't think puts their control player in the middle very much, because the idea is you want your middle player to finish their match relatively quickly, or you don't want them to be the last person playing, so that they can more easily help the other two. Then you don't want your control player there.
Yeah, and you can kind of meta that and play your deck that's good against red decks in the middle, for instance.
Yeah,
that's
so you could do that. So you could play like blue-black mid-range or green-white in the middle, because they are pretty good against the creature decks, and green-white specifically is like a bit worse against control. I
think
I wouldn't
my
put
personal
that
take
much
on...
stock into it.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. Like, my personal take on all of this is communication is the most important thing, having played in quite a lot of team events at this point, and actually, done all right, to be honest. Like, we've been pretty successful in teams, and it's really just about putting people together that like to work together and communicate. And that might even just be a familiarity thing, if you've got a team where potentially, I don't know, one person, you just want to put people together that are willing to communicate. And I think that if you're going to, there's certain players, which I think is like a really good play style, actually, is just not to talk that much and just focus on your thing and do your thing, and use your teammates when it comes to things like mulligan decisions and things like that. But, you don't rope them in that much. Use your teammates
for validation when you keep terrible hands.
Yeah.
Find the one who agrees with you on bad keeps, and make sure that when you're going to make a bad keep, you talk to them and not the other one.
So I think that's the most important thing, really, is just having good communication across the 3 tables, and just ensuring that, everybody's kind of happy where they are and who they're sitting next to, and not in a like, oh, I hate you kind of way, but in a just working together to...
But I will flip out if I'm sitting next to Dan at the RPTQ.
Obviously, so Sean's in the middle, right?
Probably not, but
we'll figure it out.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
I have given literal zero thought to our seating arrangements. So.
Exactly. So we'll figure out the decks first. I think that's a much better use of our brain power right now. And once we've got that down pat, we can figure out seats.
We spent 5 minutes on the seats, yeah. I think that's all we have to talk about for the RPTQ right now. I still think the Unified Standard is a much more interesting format now than it was several weeks ago. Several weeks ago, I was real not looking forward to it, because every deck in the format played Walking Ballista.
Yep.
And every deck in the format played Khan. But we've basically figured out that... I think everyone has figured out that white-black is just not doable for Unified. Because if you play white and black together... You've
got to play some weird stuff next to it. It gets real ugly.
You can't play green white. You have to play you have to play white black, mono green, and mono red.
Yeah, that's
and white black's just not and you're locked into that config. Because I don't think there's any other. I guess you can play like mono blue. Don't play mono blue, guys.
My problem with that config is I feel like you've got 2 third decks.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is that you're kind of like, oh well. Is white, and because you have to sacrifice all these things to play white black. Is it really worth it? Like, you have to really think white black is the best deck in the room,
and it isn't at all. Like, I think both of us have, we played that deck a lot at a time when it was good, and then also at a time where it was kind of on the downtick a little bit, and you kind of recognize that, and
I think it's just fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think that
it's
a lot of
just fine.
That's it, and a lot of the lists aren't playing Toolcraft anymore, and I think that's just right. And you're just playing a lot of these knights and a lot of interaction, and a lot of removal, and it's all just fine. But I think that was my biggest point actually when it comes to the first config I mentioned. But that's the final thing I'll say about our configs. But mono red, blue black, and blue white. I feel like with that config, we're not playing a third deck. And that's my favorite thing about it. Whereas as soon as we put the green-white deck in, I'm like, this is definitely the third deck. Do you know what I mean?
I get you. No, I understand.
Yeah.
Like, we don't make that many concessions to power level.
Yeah, and that's kind of my favorite thing about that, is that you just kind of like, these are three good decks in the meta right now. I contend that I think that these are all tier 1 to tier 1.5, and that's great. Whereas that green-white is undoubtedly tier 2.
I mean, like, I think tiers are hard ways to
for
measure
sure.
things.
No, I know what you mean.
But I understand what you mean, though. I understand the
level,
intention. Yeah, I understand the intention of what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. And I do think that...
And I do mostly agree.
I do think that it gets a bit warped, obviously, because of the format for the reasons that we've stated, but I still like the idea of just having these raw power magic cards across, all three 75s.
Just playing Teferi, Hazoret, and the Scarab God.
Yeah, that's mental. I want to play
the
those
most powerful cards.
Yeah.
Like, the most individually powerful cards in Standard.
Mm-hmm. And, like, all of the interaction across decks is great, Like, even the mono-red deck, mono-red interaction is really good right now, because there's just so many red mirrors, and the Abraid's fantastic, and
there's just so many good red cards.
Yeah, there's so many good red cards, and all of these decks, I don't ever feel like, I don't ever feel like, they can have something put in front of them and be like, oh god, I'm an absolute dog here. All the percentages are pretty good because, I mean, okay, maybe blue-white has some rough ones, but all the percentages are decent because you're just playing powerful magic cards, and I feel like that's what I want to be doing, but we'll see. Still needs to be discussed. Anything else we want to talk about outside of RPTQ stuff, or we can finish off?
I don't think so. I don't know. We have these Core 19 spoilers.
Oh yeah.
None of them are interesting.
I mean, not really.
Not a single one.
There's a lot of cool art. I think so.
Oh man, there's some good art.
That's true.
But you're way more into the art than me.
I really like Loxodons, Sumi. I like elephants, and yeah, there's quite a few cool elephants. That's what we got.
Oh, there's a new big green idiot for me to despise.
Oh yeah, I'm really not into this big green idiot.
It's because it's bad.
Yeah,
it's because it's a terrible card.
I'm into good big green idiots such as Colossal
Everyone's
Dreadnought.
like, 5 mana Tenton. Mono green Stompy and Modern will play this, and I'm like, it's 5 mana, and it has no evasion.
Yep.
Your opponent will play the card Lingering Souls, and you will look at it and be like, 2 bodies.
How do I ever
I only
beat
made
this?
1 body. For 5 mana! That's so much more, and you'll die.
That's stupid. There's some interesting stuff in here. I'm just trying to think about maybe post-rotation stuff that might be important. So an important reprints of things like Shock. So the fact that we're keeping Shock around is that's a really big deal. Mentor of the Meek's kind of interesting, but Chainwell is around, so
Yes, Mentor of the Meek will maybe become interesting at some point.
Murder's here, which is maybe one of those kind of one of two of cards and
I don't know. I feel like Murder only got played when decks needed to answer weird things like vehicles.
Boat, yeah.
Yeah, so Boat was the big one where it's I just have to be able to kill this. Mm-hmm. And Zombies, for example, played it because they just couldn't kill Boat otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you have Cast Down now.
Yeah, for sure. No, you're right. It's whatever. Okay, nothing
also,
really exciting.
Boat will be leaving.
Yeah, but right. Nothing.
I mean, there's a lot of it is just workhorse cards, Anticipate.
Mm-hmm. Divination is there, which is
Divination's not going to be in Standard.
No,
I mean, it's been in Standard for a while.
But I think it might, and obviously it doesn't matter because it was printed in Dominaria, but I think the idea of Divination in a smaller Standard, maybe? I don't know.
But even in that smaller Standard, you'll have access to Secrets of the Golden City.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, okay, never mind everything. Okay, nothing interesting.
I don't think so. I mean, I am really into a Gravedigger. I guess... Oh, wait, no. That's not true. There's 2 or 3 things that are interesting.
Okay.
I've heard some people talking about the Demon of...
Demon of Catastrophes.
For the 4 mana 6/6. Mm-hmm. I'm, not into it because I think that, at least right now, it sounds, really embarrassing against a Disallow. Mm-hmm. Or a Seal Away, or a Cast Down. And I just don't see, a deck that wants it, that it slots into, that's, being aggressive enough to make use of the body. Mm-hmm. While not just, while having something interesting to actually sacrifice.
Yeah, that's the thing.
But it could be the sort of thing that's a reasonable payoff. Mindrak Demon was actually playable and good for a while.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
This is obviously not exactly the same.
It could be the Return to Ravnica fella. What's his name?
What, Desecration Demon?
Yeah, Desecration Demon kind of esque. But the tax
people
is so
compare them a
different.
lot.
I think the tax
People
is so
compare them a
different,
lot.
though, right?
But Desecration Demon didn't have a tax. Desecration Demon had, like, a thing that he did to your opponent.
Let me remind myself of what
Desecration Demon made your opponent sacrifice. Well, he didn't make you, but, like, Desecration Demon was like,
Oh yeah, no, that's totally different. Okay,
yeah,
this is
when your
incomparable.
opponent can just can sack one of their creatures to put a +1/+1 counter on your demon
And tap
to
it.
tap it.
That's it.
But and that became really good when people stopped having lingering souls in their decks. It's really bad against lingering
For
souls.
sure.
But it's very good when your opponent's actually when attacking a creature is a real cost.
Yeah.
And suddenly and when they run out of things to sack, this demon's enormous and they die. This dude is the same size at first, but the downside is that you have to sack something, not your opponent.
Right.
So I'm not really into this unless I'm sacking something that I don't care about or that I can get back. Although maybe it's time for Journey to Eternity to shine. That excellent magic card that's totally not just worse than the Scarab card.
I've been wrecked by that card in Limited so many times.
It's pretty good in Limited.
It's so good.
But yeah, actual interesting cards are there's the 3-mana 1/1 in green that searches the top 4 or 5 for a land and puts it into play.
Oh, that's interesting. I missed that.
Yeah, so look at top 5, put a land from among them onto the battlefield tapped. It's any land, not just basic.
Elvish Rejuvenator. That's interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
So there's him. And then there's the Bugler, the Militia Bugler, who impulses for a power 2 or less creature.
And he's a 3-mana 2/3 with Vigilance.
Yeah, 3-mana 2/3 with Vigilance. But I'm quite excited by drawing an Angel of Invention with him.
Yeah, that's cool. Ooh. Okay.
I can definitely see worlds where Militia Bugler is the kind of glue that holds together some kind of deck.
Okay, some kind of white, big aggro / mid-rangey deck. I can see that.
I'm not even sure.
Yeah, another right,
I don't
but
think
I think
so,
it's
but maybe it shows up in blue-white gift in some number.
Okay, yeah.
Because you can get a Champion of Wits or an Angel.
And it's a really good thing to reanimate off a gift because it's got an ETB trigger. I like it.
Yeah.
And it's got
a reasonable thing
Vigilance.
to reanimate. It's got Vigilance.
Yeah.
So reanimating it off a gift is pretty cool because you're okay, hit you for 4. I still have a blocker and I've drawn my Angel. So now I'll cast my Angel. Oh, did you kill it? Too bad.
Okay. No, I'm kind of into that. That's cool. I totally kind of missed that slotting in there, and it's kind of interesting. Nice one.
Yeah, I think that Bugler is maybe the. Oh, we also get Gutter Snipe.
Oh,
I don't think that card's good, but it's fun.
This new weird art is weird.
It's super bad. I do not like it.
No, yeah. Anyway, enough.
The Goblin has way too big of a nose.
I think enough on Corset. Everything else is
definitely enough on Corset stuff. I'm really stretching now things to say about it.
Everything else is kind of limited cards or sort of interesting weird rares and stuff like that. But spoilers are out, so check them out and pay attention, I guess, to stuff as and when it comes out. Anything else before we finish up?
I don't think so. I think we're good. I think we've covered everything that needs to be covered today. We've addressed all of the evils of the world.
All right.
That's all we needed to do.
We did it. We're the heroes.
Yeah, we solved it.
Good job. So we'll get one more episode before we do the RPTQ, where hopefully we've settled on some stuff, but we'll see how we go.
And then after the RPTQ, the upcoming season I think is Nats. Why did I say Nats? The upcoming season is Modern, and then we also have Nats.
Yep.
So both of those are pretty exciting.
Yeah, we've got stuff coming up.
Both of it shift our attention, I think.
So that's going to be the next couple of targets. So thank you very much for listening, everyone. If you liked it, then make sure that you like and share the video. Right now, the video on YouTube. Jaren assures me that we're working on getting it set up as a real podcast with an RSS feed and, being all professional and everything. But we'll keep you posted on that. And as and when we get that, we can, we'll pop up on all the podcast apps and iTunes and everything. And that'll be great because right now,
hooray!
I keep telling people check out the podcast. They're like, where is it? YouTube. Oh, okay. We'll do it. I'll do it at the gym. It's fine. But in the meantime, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel so you don't miss any future episodes or anything else that that the good folks in the team are working on. You can also follow us on Twitter. I'm at Dan Zaru, and Nathaniel is at F_Ironside. Is that right?
I think it's meant to just be R inside F, but sometimes like Twitter gets weird.
Okay, well, we'll put it in the description so that you can find it.
Yeah, it should just be at R inside F.
All right, cool. You can check out Murphy's Vault at murphysvault.com. If you go there, there's like a great big banner which you can click on and redirects you to the WordPress with all the great articles that the team's working on. We're also on Facebook and Twitter, and all of these links are going to be in the description. So once again, thank you very much for listening. We've been From the Vault, and you've been fantastic.